Today's meditation will be led by David Dennis.
How are you doing out there? Where do you turn when you look in the mirror and realize that what you're looking at is not behaving exactly in the way you would like it to? Health problems, aging. Where do you turn? Everybody get comfortable in your seats and start to breathe a little bit more deeply and become aware of your environment. What are you hearing? What are you feeling? The sun, the birds. Where do you turn when your body is not behaving in the way you would like it to? Is it your grandkids? Something bigger than yourself? Your faith? Science? Or the internet? Love? Your spouse? Your kids? Take a couple more deep breaths and envision what it is that you bring in when you get disappointing news to help balance whatever that news might be. Focus on that which is life-enhancing for you. Take another deep breath and let in that which is life-enhancing for you. I'll give you a minute and a half to breathe. Let the chair hold you. Breathe. What is life-enhancing for you? Couple more deep breaths and come back slowly to your chair, to the sounds, and to this beautiful space. And I just have to tell you, I can feel that. Thank you. I feel better. I hope you do too.
Today's presentation is entitled Calling Dr. Google. Our speaker is Dr. Santiago Hernandez, MD, who will tell us when and how to use the internet as a tool when it comes to our health. Dr. Hernandez grew up in Chicago since the age of 2 after his family immigrated from Michoacan. He received his BA in Spanish and biology from Indiana University and his medical training at the Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara as medical doctor and surgeon. He did postgraduate studies in family medicine in the U.S. and has been a member of the American Academy of Family Physicians since 2012. He currently practices in Chapala. Let's welcome Dr. Santiago.
Good morning.
Do you need a signal for how much time is left, or you know?
That would be good.
Okay, because they like to ask questions at the end.
Of course.
Okay, great.
Well, good morning. It's very nice to see a few friendly and familiar faces. Thank you for the folks who have took my invitation to attend, and Dr. Banks, thank you for inviting me to speak. Okay. Well, first and foremost, they went. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Okay. Taking a note from David Dennis's meditation, I think that's a very good place to start. When you look in the mirror and your body is not working as it should be, what do? Okay? I think that one of the most disarming moments that we could ever experience as human beings is when you go to another human being and tell them, something's not right with my body. Help me fix it. As a physician, that's the type of responsibility we've been trained to help, to manage, to help others. I think the great majority of us who get into medicine, or any sort of being a healthcare provider, we do this with this in mind. Help another try to fix something that's wrong with their body. Or trying to prevent something from going wrong. Okay? Unfortunately, as I see here in my type of practice, the ravages of aging are something that we simply cannot prevent from happening. We can try to do it, but, we haven't gotten to that magic pill or that fountain of youth thus far. Okay? And from that, before we even get to see our doctor, many times we learn this before we move here into the States, or because we have moved here from the U.S., Canada, etc., other countries. Oftentimes there's a language and a cultural barrier when you see physicians here or other healthcare providers. So what do? Well, there's been a great tool that's called the internet. Okay, Dr. Google. Okay, now the internet came about, as from the U.S. government. They implemented it way back when. I remember when I was in college at Indiana University. It was a really cool thing when I got my first email account through the university. What do you use an email for? What do you use the internet? For communication. It was mainly, I worked in a molecular biology lab, and that's what we've used to communicate with scientists halfway across the world working on very similar projects. Okay? Then there were IRC chat rooms for whatever, for card collecting, stamp collecting, you name it. Now, it's grown, it's evolved, the internet has evolved, and we use it for communication with our families, friends, not only colleagues. We also use it when we are seeking information. You can find anything on there, from finding a good hotel in Nice, halfway around the world, to finding gluten-free type of recipe for pizza. Okay? Most importantly now, what 1 in 20 Google searches is now for healthcare related information. 1 in 20. Okay? So that's what the vast majority of us do now. We go online before we even go to our doctor or our nurse or call our friends, etc. I've got something going on. My stomach doesn't feel right. Okay? So we go on the internet. Okay. Now, what are the pros? There are actually quite a few pros to doing that. It's very easy to use. You need internet connection, you need electricity, computer, etc. There are thousands upon thousands of pages of information in your own language, not to name the others: French, Polish, Spanish, etc. Okay? It also helps inform the general public or the person who's speaking or who's seeking the information about with general information about a particular topic. It's great. Back in the day, we'd have to make the trip to the library. I remember when I was in junior high school, yes, my parents still invested in buying an encyclopedia. Okay? We have these big encyclopedias still in storage in my place. Or if you know, we saved up for one. Unfortunately, you know, my dad being a steel worker, it wasn't until I almost graduated from high school that we got our encyclopedia. So I had to make many trips to the public library. Okay? And we'd have to help, we'd ask the help of the librarian, you know, to get us to the information. It was a lot more tedious. Okay? But we could get a lot of information. Okay? And another pro now is it really helps bridge a large gap of knowledge that was almost exclusively of a doctor and versus the patient. Okay? Remember the days of, I don't know how many of you grew up in small towns. Well, the city of Chicago where I grew up wasn't all that large. It was northwest Indiana steel town. And we had our own Spanish-speaking doctors there that helped our community. And we'd go to them and my family, and you know, the doctors were these gods of knowledge. Okay? Very few times would you think of even questioning their knowledge. Okay? Very few times. You know, you look at shows like Leave It to Beaver and all of that, and you know, these doctors still had a very prominent place in their communities. Okay? Not so much anymore, unfortunately. Not so much. The way medicine has been evolving has made us, I hate to say, oftentimes a little bit more than waiters. Okay? You have option A, B, or C, and pick and choose. But how do you know which option is best for you? Well, we turn to the internet. Okay. Now, what are the pitfalls from this rapidly evolving tool? Now, we know many tools, they come with instructions. Do they not? You buy a wood press, you buy a jack, you know, that could change your tires. They come with instructions. Okay? The internet is a wonderful tool, and unfortunately it does not have any instructions. It's a wonderful tool, it's also a very dangerous tool. Okay? So, how do we know what to use it? Because instructions don't come included. Okay? Many times, you know, because of freedom of speech, etc., really, as most of you know and do, you post information to the internet. Nobody vets it. We're not living in North Korea, we're not living in China, where it has to go through government filters, etc. Okay? And much of the information there is unvetted. It may be erroneous. It's very subjective, at least. Okay? Often the information that we find is confusing or very contradictory. Okay? When we get, specifically on Google, which is, I think, the most commonly used search engine, we often forget that the top searches that appear on those web pages are often paid for, or they're a product of very strategic SEO, SEO placement, strategic search engine optimization. For one, I use it. Okay, I use that as a tool. Well, if you're looking for a doctor in Chapala, I want to be one of those top results. Well, I've got to pay the man. I've got to pay Google. Okay, and many times we don't remember that companies, governments, institutions pay to appear on the top of the page or on the sidebar. Okay. Another thing that is a pitfall is that these search engines use your own past search history to guide you. Okay, for you, the results that pop up on, you search headaches, chest pain. Maybe if you've searched, I don't know, where to buy the best glasses, or you're searching for medication for reflux, etc. Those search engine results will very much reflect your past search engine history. Okay? One pitfall I see that, although it's a great tool, it has helped foster and undermine trust between a healthcare provider, a doctor, and the patient. It's created a culture sometimes of distrust with institutions, persons involved in healthcare. Okay? I think there are many people, I hear many times when I prescribe such and such medication, they come back, oh, this is by such big pharmaceutical company, et cetera, they think that I'm in the pocket. Honestly, Pfizer, whatever, does not visit me. Okay, they do not visit my little clinic on Lake Chapala. Okay, they have bigger fish to fry, et cetera. Okay, but more importantly, I think it has created a culture of there's a new term called cyberchondriacs. Cyberchondriacs. Have any of you heard that term before? No. Cyberchondriacs. You know, when I was in first year, second year of medical school, we're bombarded with all of these new diseases, with all of these things that put you at risk, family history, this, that, the other. And you're sitting there in the room, the classroom, thinking, holy smokes, I got a headache and I got a diarrhea and I just went to the beach, or I had a trip to Mexico. Oh man, I really could have salmonella. It's probably not salmonella. I have this, that, the other. Afterwards, we kind of develop a thick skin to that stuff. Okay, but it's just a reflection that we're not immune from those thoughts. Okay. So, without any instructions, how do we use this wonderful tool known as the internet when it comes to our own health? Okay, when we can't get in to see the doctor right away. Okay, as soon as we need to be, when our doctor or healthcare providers or our very well-intentioned friends give us information that we don't know, frankly, that we can trust. Okay, we turn, well, here's the internet. Within less than 30 seconds, you'll have many, many choices of information which to click on and guide you. Okay? First and foremost, me as a physician, I think my generation of doctors has been trained, albeit we're still being trained to deal with this. Okay, now, as opposed to 20 years ago, medical schools, we now have cultural sensitivity training. How to talk to patients from different cultures, backgrounds, etc. I remember I was helping teach while I was doing my board exams in the U.S. at the University of Chicago. They had cultural sensitivity, and it was dumbfounding because even when I went through med school just a few years earlier, we had none of it. Okay, yeah, what do you do if somebody from Ecuador comes in and they put these little collars on the children, this, that, the other, and then again, it's really, they foster the teaching of the art of medicine to teach us. You can't find that on the internet. And also, one of the things that we had to deal with cultural and societal training is, what do you do when somebody comes in and says, I've got this, I'm here for a second opinion. Okay? They self-diagnose. Okay? You've got this. Well, Google says, I've got this. I got A, B, and C. Is this true? I need this medication. Okay. All right. Well, first and foremost, when you are sitting down, and are about to begin your search, first and foremost, what is your goal? Okay. That's what I like to try to ask my patients now. What's your goal when you come to see me as a doctor? What do you expect to get out of this office? Is it the same thing? You're saying, what do you expect to get out of that search? Okay? Well, what are you searching for? Are you searching to vet persons, institutions, medications? Are you searching to quiz your doctor? Maybe to challenge your diagnosis, his or her diagnosis? Or, what I really invite is, are you searching for information to help teach or inform your doctor? Okay? There are new medications coming about every day. There are many ways to heal our bodies. Okay? Alternative medicine, okay, that really complements a lot of what we do. But I only have so many hours a day to study, and so many years of my life to be dedicated to be behind keeping my nose in books. So I often do count on patients to inform me. look, doctor, I've been taking this such and such tea, and here are the health benefits. According, they have their own sources, and I think that's wonderful. Okay? But you also have to ask yourself if the links that you're getting, the web pages, they provide subjective or objective information. Okay? There are many websites such as Yelp, etc., and the famous Chapala.com web boards that provide much subjective information. Okay? But for many patients, when much of the public, there's very little else information to go on. You have to kind of sometimes put yourself in the shoes or in the place, which is very difficult to do, of the people who are writing such reviews. Okay? Many times people just have gotten bad news. And they may be going through one of the phases of acceptance, etc. It's a very emotional time when somebody gets bad news. They don't know who to lash out at. Okay? And even my doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. I can't have this. I've been healthy as a horse 80 years of my life. What does it mean that I have breast cancer or lung cancer now? I mean, I just recently experienced it with my own mother about a little more than a year ago. Diagnosed with breast cancer. Oh, she went through all the stages. What do you mean I got breast cancer? I eat right, I drink jugo verde every day, I exercise at the gym 4 times a week, this, that, the other. Really, she had that cardiovascular health of a 40-year-old. I can't say, but she got cancer. So who did she turn? And I sat her down and said, Mom, people are going to come at you from left and right, from in front, from behind with information. It's very well intentioned, okay, but keep this in mind. It's subjective, etc. Okay, stick with what we know if you wanted to choose that route. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, what are your goals? What information are you seeking? What's the goal? What are you going to do with that information? Number 2, how trustworthy is this information that's subjective or objective? Okay. I like to use the term evidence-based medicine. That's the type of medicine I practice. I practice allopathic medicine, which is medicine based on years and years of research of going through the scientific methods. Okay? I think most of you are familiar with what the scientific method is, right? It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's, that's the best thing we've got going now. Every so often we hear in the news that there are articles in very, very prominent medical and science journals that publish erroneous information. Well, what you going to do? I don't know. I have little else to go on. But I ask yourself, also take those other good websites, which I will later dive into, with a grain of salt. Now, so how much should you trust Dr. Google? Okay, let's get behind the computer screen, and I'll put in a symptom, which I do not recommend. I do not recommend that you use a search with a symptom. Headache. Okay? Headache. I'm going to go through each of these, and then I'm going to ask you what word or phrase that you're going to hear consistently. I Google headache. What comes up? Brain tumor, meningitis, brain bleed. I Google sore throat, throat cancer, throat infection, acid reflux, back pain, slip-herniated disc, bone cancer, spine tumor, sciatica, prostate cancer. I Google cough, lung cancer, asthma, cold, flu, rash, measles, skin allergy, melanoma. I Google diarrhea, bowel cancer, IBS, food poisoning. I Google chest pain, heart attack, lung cancer, acid reflux. Now, what word resonated the most? Exactly. Now, here's the thing the trouble is that it's human nature to seek out the most exciting story. So that we're attracted to rare and worst case scenarios. When we go through our medical school training, we're drilled on all our board exams. What are the most common causes? What's the most common cause? What's the most common cause of this, that, the other? We're trained, they say if you hear hooves outside of the door, it's most likely a horse. It's not a zebra. Rare means rare. Okay? Rare means rare. Okay? There are those instances, though, when, I will say that patients do come to me and, they say, look, doctor, I've been looking at this and just things aren't right. I get to see your body in my office 15, 20 minutes, I'm not as rushed. It's a half-hour consultation. That's just a very small snapshot compared to what you walk around in. People know their bodies better. I had somebody when I first got to town, came in with me for a year and a half, just with the anemia that she runs. She would be running at least 5 miles every morning. Then after her run, she'd go to church, eat healthy, etc. She has some of the best arms I've ever seen on a person. Physically fit like you wouldn't believe at the age of 65. And she told me, look, there's something not right. Well, we did everything that was in my scope, except kind of see a hematologist. She had anemia. Okay. Good for her, and the hematologist saw something else with different eyes. We diagnosed her with rare multiple myeloma. Okay, unfortunately. But, she has a fatigue, most common cause, etc. That was something that was really ingrained into me. What are the most common causes? This is one of the rare causes. When people are fatigued, etc. Really, it's a lot. Most of the time here in Chapala, it's like a sleep. It's those mid-afternoon cocktail parties. It's the great diet that we have here, etc. Okay? People like to exercise, conducive. I get it, okay? But those are the most common causes. Not that you have some really rare blood type of cancer, leukemia. Now, contrary to popular opinion these days, doctors, we do like our patients to be informed. We like them to use the internet. It's made our lives, our work a lot easier. The number one cause for malpractice lawsuits in the U.S. is due to lack of information. Lack of communication between doctors. Most of the time, doctors say, and I just saw this with my best friend who has a family practice clinic in Aurora. He sees 40 patients in an 8-hour day. 40 patients. That's just to keep afloat. On a good day, he sees 60. Okay? Now, do we have the time to sit there in the U.S. and Canada to educate our patients as we should be? When we graduate med school, we're so comfortable we're going to save the world. Unfortunately, insurance, paperwork, this, that, the other, really takes the wind out of our sails. And my friend, 5 years ago, he was almost bankrupt because he saw 4 patients a day, so he was spending time with them. But now, he had to turn this thing into a machine. So, there's no time. We do like this information. But how do we use this information? Okay? Well, I would stress again, do not randomly Google your symptoms. I stress one more time, rare conditions are still rare. If you Google, if something is bothering you enough to sit behind a computer and Google, I've had a headache for the past 3-4 nights. I haven't had a headache this strong in my life. You know what? You need to get in touch with your doctor. If it's bothering you that much. Okay? If you do go, and if you shrug it up, okay, I saw this is Dr. Hernandez's lecture. He says, rare is rare, I don't have a brain bleed, etc. But you know what? If it's bothering you enough, then go see your doctor. Okay? That's one of the pitfalls that you may underdiagnose. Some people are the hypochondriacs, where other people's like, well, you know what? I've got this cough. Maybe it's because I used to smoke. I've had a cough for 3 months. Well, and you should have seen your doctor. Okay? So that's one thing. If you've taken the time to Google something, you should see your doctor. Now, if you go see your GP and you've already Googled a topic, Be open to discussion about the research. Okay? We may have some more information. We may have different information. Okay? It may complement. Again, I have had people come in and say, doctor, I've got A, B, and C. I have this disease or this syndrome, and I need you to give me this medication. I'm here just for a second opinion. That's not the way things tend to work. Okay? It's not the, okay. So, when should you use the internet before you see a doctor? Well, now we have another really, really wonderful tool of modern science, instead of computer science, are smartphones. Most of them have cameras. If you have a lump, a bump, or a rash, that's when you know it's time to take a picture. And most of the doctors now can receive email, etc., and say, doctor, I got this rash, etc. And most primary care physicians have a rotation through internal medicine and dermatology, or at least familiar with something. Ooh, that looks suspicious. I don't know what it is. Come on in. That's when you should use Google. And you can now, with a picture, you can actually search images. Okay? Well, this image looks like this type of rash. It could be a type of cancer. Go in and you see your doctor. Now, when should you wait until to use Google? Well, I would recommend wait until you've been diagnosed. Okay? Now, contrary to many of my teachers, etc., modern medicine, I think, has produced a lot of more humble doctors. We don't have all the answers. Okay? We do make mistakes, etc. Many times, well, in the U.S., unfortunately, we have more restrictions, etc. We make recommendations. Even radiologists, people say, you kind of wait until like the most expensive, invasive, and specialized exam to tell somebody they have a certain diagnosis. Okay? But here we say, look, all of the testing points to this, and that's when you could wait to just have your Google search. When you've been diagnosed, for example, with diabetes, hypertension, some chronic degenerative disease, there's wealth of information for such things. When people come into my office, many times, if I feel that there isn't a level of understanding on their part, we have two options. We have either I get on one of the websites that I personally like. Many of them have videos. The website for the American Academy of Family Physicians has many great patient-oriented videos. I said, okay, prostate cancer. Okay, this is what the type of surgery you're going to be getting. Okay, endoscopy. This is the type of preparation that you need. This is what we're going to do, etc. Well, you have diabetes. This is the goal for your treatment. This is what we need to do. This is what you need to do. This is what we can wait time. Okay. So, with that being said, we tend to use the form. Oh, and before you walk out, I also print out and hand patients some printed material, with patient education materials for their particular diagnosis. Okay. Now, there are like 30 reputable medical sources online. These are the few. I'm listing 10. And if you sign up for my newsletter, I'm going to publish and I can email them to you. Okay? WebMD. Okay? The WebMD.com is good. It's accredited by the Utilization Review of Accreditation Commission since 2001. Medline Plus. Medline Plus is also a very good resource. It has many articles that are focused towards the patients at their register for the lay people. The MayoClinic.org for both doctors and patients. ClevelandClinic.org for doctors and patients. Medscape. Medscape's a little bit more focused towards physicians and nurses. Drugs.com. I really like drugs.com. Okay? The U.S. Preventative Services Task Force I know it's a long one. Okay, but many patients come in and say, look, doctor, why are you ordering a colonoscopy, this, that, the other? Well, they are the ones who do a lot of the research and tailor certain recommended studies, diagnostic screening studies that are age appropriate, that are sex appropriate, and that are even based on your ethnic background. If you're black, Hispanic, Indian descent, etc. Okay? So what's the future look like for use of this tool? Well, Google now has been set to be publishing listing about 900 known diagnoses that have been vetted by the medical community in the United States. It's focused towards patients who come from the U.S. and Canada. This came very apparent with, there was a small epidemic of Legionnaire's disease in New York City in 2015. And they noted that there was a spike in people looking for signs and symptoms that kind of led them to this diagnosis of Legionnaire's disease. Okay? Now, that's wonderful if you can do that, and I think that's great that imagine. I've got to remember approximately juggle that many diagnoses, 900. Okay? And it's really nice to be able to type in. But I think a lot of times you've got to be careful and remember that medicine, the way we practice ideally, is an art. Okay? Many times I heard an anecdote of a gastroenterologist, a patient had been in to see him, to see 4 or 5 other gastroenterologists. Nobody could figure out what's wrong with him. He just simply asked her, what's wrong with you? Where do you work? At a bakery, etc., etc. She looked unkempt, this, that, the other, and then she started talking about some dreams. At the end of the day, really what was wrong with her was more psychological, etc., because she had a very traumatic event when she was 14, and she never talked to anybody, and that's something you can't get from getting behind a computer. They threw all the medications at her, she spoke with all her friends, go see doctor this, go see this, that, the other, go see the lady, the sopadora who do it here, and at the end of the day, she found this doctor, the doctor sat down and practiced medicine. It wasn't just a GI problem. The GI problem, the gastrointestinal tract, it's an outlet for all of your emotional problems. That's where we get terms that news is hard to swallow. We choked up. My roommate, my neighbor's a pain in the rear end. Okay, I've got a knot in my stomach. Think about it. All of these are actual symptoms. And if we're looking them all up, we're going to get pills, we're going to get testing, all this, and that may not be what you really need. You just may need to speak to somebody who will guide you. Okay? That's the thing I don't think you're able to get from Google. But it is a very good resource if you can find the good sources, good sources. Ask your doctor, healthcare provider to provide those sources. Okay? Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Good morning, sir.
Wait a second.
Okay.
We have our way.
Oh, I don't know, I was taking the pressure. I'm sorry.
Very nice talk. So if you have a question, raise your hand, and you know what to do. Someone will bring you the mic. Stand and then deliver your question. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Closer to your mouth.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richie. And doctor, I would like to ask you 2 questions. As we all know, most illnesses, disease, and maladies are caused by pathogens. These are virus, fungus, and bacteria. Is that correct?
There's a good proportion, maybe 30% of them, that I would say. I don't know, I can't tell you I would know an exact percentage, but if I were to speculate, I would say about 30%. There are other people who would say a great many of them are psychosomatic, like diabetes, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that. That people say, well, I'm not a lot of stress and anxiety.
Okay. You're in the medical field for how long now?
All my life. Practicing since 2006.
Okay. Can you tell me what is the bacteria that causes true metastases?
A bacteria that causes metastases, I haven't read or understood anything to that nature. One that causes it. There are many bacteria, there are many viruses that are pro-oncogenic. Let's say if you have a gastrointestinal disease, etc., like listeria. Listeria, if you have it and you have a genetic predisposition for it, both of them work together to cause it. Okay, but metastases per se, I'm not an oncologist and I haven't read or anything like that.
And I'll offer it to you all. Well,
No, we will go on with another question. Sorry, Richie.
Dr. Santiago, thank you very much for your presentation. I have a very simple question. Would you repeat those websites? didn't get a
I
chance to
think
write
he
them
said
down.
they'd be under the tree on the
Would they?
printout.
Yeah,
Let me say that your website is listed over here.
right, I have a monthly newsletter, and that information I can send it to you in a newsletter if you sign up for my newsletter.
So that, by the way, there are 3 different tables over there with the sign-up list. So after the program, if you go there and sign up.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You spoke a little bit about how Google uses a predisposition to give you answers.
That is correct.
Let's take a hypothetical situation.
Uh-huh.
My mother-in-law lives with us. She is Mexican. She is very old school. And so she wants to use holistic medicine. So she has something and she asks me to search for it. And I do, and I get a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I have predisposed Google to look for holistic answers. I'm not a holistic person. Is there a way that I can unbias Google?
Well, the one thing is, when you go on websites, etc., your computer really comes down to saving cookies, etc. You could, when you have a Google account like me, I use multiple computers. So I use their web browser, and I sign in, and it's basically I'm using the same portal at different computers. And it saves all of my history, all of this, that, the other. Okay? So the best thing to unbias is use a brand spanking new account, or just Google, sign out. Make sure you sign out and you clear your search engine history. Okay? You could use Safari browser. Okay, get on Google. And Chrome browser, that's Google's own. They save everything. They really, really do. And also if you search on Facebook, for example, many people, Facebook, what they want to do now is compete with Google. So they will not only keep track of your search history, they will also keep track of your friends' search history, etc. Birds of a feather flock together. If you hang out with all these people who are into holistic medicine, this, that, the other, the odds are that you're going to be probably searching for that type of cure. The people who, if you're hanging around with a bunch of neuroscientists, this, that, the other, then they're going to cater your search results to you. Back there? Oh, I'm sorry, here.
Up here in the gazebo?
Okay. And over there too. Who's first?
You go first. You go to one, yeah. Thank you very much for your talk. It was enlightening. A lot of us give ourselves symptoms, especially when we're around people who are sick. I hope I don't get that. Seems like it works that way. I stay healthy and I stay around healthy people. It works. My question is, have you seen anything in the way of people using their subconscious mind in order to help alleviate or lessen the impact of a disease or an ailment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully in the future, if I ever were to come back and give another talk, that's something I'd definitely like to touch on. The power of the mind. Tibetan monks, as part of their training exercises, they have such a great control over their physiology that they're sitting out in cold. They'll put these frozen towels on them, and in a matter of 10 minutes, they have to make steam rise from them. Okay? We only use a small percentage of our body, of our mind. Einstein was said to have used maybe 40% of it. Okay? Imagine if we unlock all that our minds can do. Now, as this other gentleman who told me asked about the bacteria, etc., what I can tell you is that from my experience, a great many of our modern day ailments are products of stress and anxiety, which are very primitive defense mechanisms. As living beings, animals, we are either in fight or flight or rest and digest. Our sympathetic versus parasympathetic. If we're stuck in traffic, if we're irritated about this, that, the other, about paying bills, our heart rate increases, our body releases stress hormones, things like that. Much of that acid in our stomach is released and goes into our intestines without any food. We have all irritation of our bowels, etc. So what happens? Yes, many of these things, if we learn to calm down, be serene, and do a lot of the meditation things, I think that we can help at least keep a lot of those modern day illnesses, such as gastritis, hypertension, etc., under control.
Okay, here in the middle.
Hi, great talk. Do you have a recommendation for a website that would help with drug interactions that pulls in homeopathic and nutrition information at the same time?
Drugs.com is good. This is in the U.S., which is where we were trained. We have various safety mechanisms instituted. For example, doctors now, at least in the Chapala area, we have communication to the pharmaceutical networks, pharmacies of like five of the states around, because we know many patients go see one doctor for one thing, another doctor for another thing, and there are interactions. Here in Mexico, it's harder. Drugs.com is pretty good for you to get on. I use software that's U.S. based, a medical software that alerts me to my patient's allergies, that alerts me to other medications. But herein lies the big thing: is my patient being totally honest with me and telling me that they're taking all of these medications, these herbs, etc. Many times they forget. Okay? Many times they forget. They don't think St. John's wort is going to interact with all their other medications because they got it at Walmart or the GNC without a prescription. Okay? I would start with drugs.com. It's good. It's unbiased. Another one, if you want to pay a subscription, it's called Up to Date. Okay?
Over here.
I want to go over the joke you had. They said that the thing has become wireless.
The what?
The communications have become wireless in the joke that was presented, as opposed to, well, you see, I fully respect your medical knowledge and all the treatment you have, but there is today, and has been increasing, parallel medicine that does not conform to all the training you and hundreds and thousands of other doctors have received. For example, currently there's a 10-part series being broadcast on the internet about the cure for cancer. And it clearly points out that radiation, chemotherapy, and excision causes more problems than the disease itself. And there's other instances. I know a doctor in Canada who's been really going after people to take a heavy dose of vitamin C. Nobody would listen. And he's proven over and over again that it cures a lot of things. But you people who are in medicine are stuck with all what they tell you to do all the standard treatment. Thank you.
Well, the only thing I could say is, in my training, we know that, for example, China, the Chinese doctors, if you choose to be a doctor, you could do 1, training or another. One is the traditional Chinese medication, which has been in existence well over 2,000 years. And the other one is a Western medicine. Over there, it's actually not even there's not a conflict, so to speak, between those two. They respect each other, okay, the two mindsets, and they complement each other. I chose to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. What was available to me was this route, okay? That's what I chose. That's what I knew. There wasn't a med school or anything to teach me anything else. So that's the route I've chosen. I'm willing to learn, and I think most colleagues of mine are willing to learn, if they put their egos aside, ways to help people. Heck, I'm all on board if you take a bunch of vitamin C and you can cure yourself. But according to what I've read and understood, that's not the way. And in my own mother's case, I will say this, in my own mother's case, she had everybody, including a Cuban doctor, come to her. And I've known patients who were in the audience who opted to go the other alternative ways, and it's a decision they own. But me, based on what I know, what I've read and understood, I told my mom, Mom, this is what I read and understood, this is what I've spent $200,000 and 10 years of my life to learn. What are you going to pay? Where do you want to put your money on? She stuck with me, and I can say today she's cancer-free. Just like the other patients who I have in the audience who opted to go another route. I'm not saying which is right or wrong, but I put my money where on what I know.
Well, I guess we have time for just one more.
My question is, what is your recommendation about taking homeopathic medicine, for example, arnica, prior to having, if you have a fracture, you're having a knee replacement, a hip replacement, because I've been told by an orthopedic doctor that it's very good and it reduces swelling and inflammation and accelerates healing.
Absolutely. Look, again, we're trying to see that people are very verbal, very open against and pro these herbs, medicine. The medical school curriculum is catching up now. I will say, if you go to the Mayo Clinic, etc., it's a very prominent, up-to-date medical schools in the U.S. are trying to instill that into the curriculum. Arnica, for example, has been known to be a great anti-inflammatory. And it's great if you use it before a surgery for most procedures to decrease the amount of inflammation. But again, inform your doctor. Inform your doctor. Because a lot of these medications, part of the same anti-inflammatory properties that they have, they share them with aspirin. So if you're going to use them before a surgery, guess what? You may be bleeding during that surgery. Okay? So just inform your patients. Don't, think that their feelings are going to be hurt. They may be frustrated and postpone the surgery for your safety. Okay? But all in all, I think that's a very good idea. Okay? Just inform yourself. And again, even on drugs.com, you will see information that's relevant to those alternative medications.
Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. Would you be willing to stay a few minutes for people? He'll take your questions up here individually after we quit this morning. And also, you can sign up to get on his monthly newsletter over there, and we hope you will. What? Yes, please stack your chairs and dispose correctly of your trash.